minute.
What's the difference between a toxic character and a good character with flaws? I think it depends a lot on how the writers approach them. And also, how the audience does. Carrie Bradshaw, Sex and the City. Carrie Bradshaw is a very colorful and interesting character. She's introduced as funny, charismatic, likable, but she does have negative traits. Her negative traits are she's selfish, indecisive, and materialistic. Throughout the show, we see her with different romantic interests, particularly Aiden and Big, the two biggest male love interests that this show introduced to the audience. The way that audiences approach both male characters in relation to Carrie, I think is very telling. With Carrie, she's, for the most part, especially whilst the airing of the show, she is not really perceived as in the wrong to how she approaches her relationships, these two relationships particularly. With Aiden, she doesn't want to be with him. She stays with him. However, he doesn't have the, I guess, the glow, the something that Big has. I saw this post saying, women who don't like Carrie Bradshaw have no self-awareness and are emotionally unintelligent. I laughed at that. And then I commented, what does it have to do with self-awareness? I think some women relate to the toxicity and project that onto other women. That other women should, I guess, relate and have compassion for Carrie. Carrie probably represents that broken part of them and they feel critiqued and the need to defend Carrie. Their stance is, oh, if you don't like Carrie, you just don't get it. Some women might relate to Carrie, but are able to see that Carrie is deeply flawed and blame her for begging and scratching her way back despite knowing better. Carrie said on multiple occasions that she knew Mr. Big wasn't good for her. He ditched their wedding, cheated with her, probably on her at some point, but Carrie stayed. If not liking Carrie means no self-awareness, what does loving her mean? Having so much self-awareness and emotional intelligence. And this actually spurred this topic on for me. This has been a trend that I have been recently noticing, and I've been noticing it big time. From Carrie from Sex and the City, Huda from Love Island, Karen from the earlier seasons of Sisters, Danny from Beyond the Gates. You can see a subsection of women that go hard for those women, so hard for those women, regardless of what these women have done and the disruption that they have caused in their own lives as well as others. Now, when we're talking about Huda from Love Island, I want to separate from Carrie, Danny, and Karen from Sisters. And I also want to separate Danny and Karen from Carrie from Sex and the City. That's kind of confusing. But if you don't know, Karen from Sisters is one of the main characters on this Tyler Perry drama series. Karen from the show, she starts off the show, well, breaking up with a main character. His name is Zach. And the reason why they break up is because Zach has been notoriously cheating on her up until the beginning of the show. Like, the show begins at their breakup. Following this breakup, they get back together, they break up, and they go through a lot of drama. But here's the issue. Zach, when Karen finally decides, no, you have to leave, I don't want you anymore, he meets another woman. Her name is Fatima. And she becomes a fan favorite, but we'll leave that for, that's a different situation. She becomes a fan favorite because she takes Zach in to her house. But I know what you're saying, like, oh, Karen didn't lose anything. And that's how Karen feels until Zach is very nice to a woman at his job in the airport, and that woman gives him a tip, insider trading, and she tells him that this is going to be what you need to invest in. So he does what she says and he gets millions from it. He immediately becomes an overnight millionaire. With that money, he builds his own house and he gets Fatima a big, huge car. He moves Fatima and himself out of her apartment and they get their own house. Following this, Karen from the show goes ballistic. Up until this point, by the way, guys, she was dating the preacher in a church and they're going well, but the moment that Karen hears that he has gone big, and no, she doesn't hear it because Zach himself goes to her salon and gives her an amount to cover the rent that she had been paying for the both of them. So he gives her all that money back and he's like, yeah, see you, Karen. And that's when things go downhill for her character. She really gets twisted up about it and she demands to be with him. There's a lot more intricacies before that, but basically that's the gist of what happens. During this period of time in the show, while there are a lot of Fatima lovers, there's a subsection of the show that rode for Karen. Despite the fact that, by the way, Karen would go to that house that Zach had now made for him and his girlfriend, new fiance, she didn't like it. She went to his house and doesn't want to let him go. Okay, now that I've explained it, there are a lot of people who are Fatima and Zach lovers, but there was also a very small but strong section of the audience that really rode for Karen. And I fear the reasons why they rode for Karen are not the reasons that they should have. They rode for Karen and they supported Karen not because she deserves better and she deserves to just move on peacefully, but because they themselves believed Zach secretly loved her and he left her for a better woman, which isn't true. They rode for her heavy, saying, no, he loves her, like they had a relationship, and even though he's with Fatima, he does love Karen, and Karen, I don't know why she's getting hated, Zach hurt her, etc, etc. The next person we're going to talk about is Carrie Bradshaw from Sex and the City. Carrie Bradshaw, like I said, she meets multiple different love interests over the course of the show, but the two big ones are Aiden and Mr. Big. She cheats on Aiden with Mr. Big, and she cheats with Mr. Big on his wife. There is a section in the audience that follows and watches and adores Sex and the City that rides for Carrie. Even though Carrie, even when she wasn't with Big, she was always wanting to be with him despite how badly he treated her. She cheated on Aiden with Mr. Big, and then she cheated with Mr. Big on his wife, and then, I mean, let's be honest, Mr. Big probably cheated on Carrie. There's a section of the audience that doesn't view Carrie as emotionally immature. They view her as justified and quote unquote, you'll see this often, just a girl. What can we say? It's not her fault. Mr. Big rightfully gets a lot of heat. He's a terrible love interest, terrible boyfriend to Carrie, and he was a terrible fiance. The show ends shortly after they get married, and you know, you can assume that they live happily ever after, but he put her through a lot leading up to that marriage. He put her through a lot. Yeah, but there's a section of women that think, you know what, Carrie's just a girl. Okay, she's just a girl. Okay, I don't know why you guys are harping on her so much. She's just like you. You also are like Carrie. Whilst there are plenty of women that probably had a Mr. Big or a version of Mr. Big, they can admit that Carrie was immature and she didn't need to force herself to be with Mr. Big as much as she did. Trust me, she does force herself to be with Mr. Big. Mr. Big doesn't do really grandiose displays of affection to make sure that Carrie stays within his grips. He doesn't do that. He lets things flow, and Carrie decides that she wants this to be signed, sealed, delivered. Huda from Love Island. I didn't watch Love Island, but I watched a lot of clips, and Huda is constantly playing the victim, crying, causing drama, throwing stones and hiding her hands. And for whatever reason, there's a section of the Love Island audience that feels like she's just so fun for that. She's just so cool for that. She's just so real for that. But I just want to talk about the commonality between these characters and the reception to them. The reception, I think, for a lot of female characters on shows, especially if they're disruptive, can be quite stark indifference. It can be love and wholehearted defense, or it can be complete disgust and anger towards the character. The middle lane sometimes can be unoccupied for a lot of audiences. This was definitely the case for almost all of these women that I've mentioned in this video. But I think that for the section of audience that does go hard for these characters, thinking to themselves as being pro-woman for excusing these women's bad behavior under the guise of she's just a girl, she's so real for that, etc. A lot of these women have these character traits and personality traits in relation to a man. So I don't think it actually excuses the women, but more so excuses bad behavior in their own life. And strong examples can be seen in both Dan, Carrie, and Karen on their respective shows. Their behavior is viewed as, you know, acceptable, normal, reasonable. When the correct reception to a man that's not interested should be to let him go. Let him walk. You literally cannot kill everybody because a man doesn't want to be with you. Like, what the heck? Like, but the women on their respective shows do almost everything but kill everyone because their man doesn't want to be with them. For the case of Carrie Bradshaw, she cheats on her boyfriend. She cheats with Mr. Big. She causes disruption for her friends. Another thing I'm going to talk about it. A lot of women had very low compassion for Natalie, the woman that Mr. Big cheats with Carrie on, if that makes sense. So Carrie cheats with Mr. Big on his wife, Natalie. And a lot of women don't like Natalie because she thinks she's better than Carrie. Guys, that's another video, 100%. But similarly, I think it's funny because you will notice that the same women that dislike Natalie are the same women that dislike Charlotte. Do you see the theme going on? It kind of seems like they don't like Natalie or Charlotte because those women aspire to be, you know, taken care of or traditional, and they have standards for what they want in a marriage. And I don't know, that's just what it looks like to me. Because why don't you like Natalie? What did Natalie do? Like with Charlotte, people were saying, oh, Charlotte idolizes marriage too much. I hate her because of that. But they're the same women that will love Carrie. Anyway, the point that I want to make is that making excuses for these characters is not pro-woman, especially when you make excuses for their behavior in relation to how they behave. Because, okay guys, I'm back. The camera died because it overheated. I'm tired of this camera. I'm actually tired of this camera. But anyway, the point I'm trying to make is that going hard for a character whose whole personality and whose whole arc is being disruptive, especially in relation to wanting to be with a man, I don't think it's pro-woman. It's very short-sighted, and it allows a lot of people who may be with a similar mindset to soothe themselves. Carrie for Sex and the City, when they do allow her to just be with Big, even though what should have happened is Carrie not being with Big and evolving and growing and realizing that she doesn't need to force the situation, chase after the man. Why are you saying that this character can be running after this man and you don't feel like, oh, I wish she would just, like, you know, move on and choose herself? Like, why is your instinct to be like, no, he does love her, like, no, he loves her and he's in the wrong for not wanting to be with her? Guys, what are we doing? What are we doing? I don't get it. I don't get it. But yeah, I just want to say that, yeah, if you want to love a character and support a character, it doesn't have to mean that you completely ignore how the character actually is. Huda from Love Island, though she's not a character, I'm very concerned that there are women who genuinely are like, no, she's so real for that. Like, she's the realest. Like, there's never been a character as good as her, as amazing. This is your definition of real and cool. Now I have questions, because you'll hear people come online and being like, oh, people are this, people are that, like this happened, and you know, you'll feel bad, you'll be like, oh my gosh, but then you don't look at the multiple complex reasons why they have had the experience they have with people, you know. You don't really, there might be, that's a whole rabbit hole. But anyway, I hope you guys really enjoyed this video, and catch you in the next one. Bye.